शापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. So we are on chapter. We have just begun the discussion on chapter 5, page number 75. That's Sri Ramakrishna's steamer trip with Keshav. Now he's still on the steamer and the discussions are going on. But this chapter 5 has a verse from the Gita which reads as follows. It is from the 7th chapter, 13th verse. The verse reads like this: Tribhir gunamayair bhavair ebhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabhijanati mam ebhya param avyayam. The meaning is deluded by the three gunas. Tribhir gunamayair bhavai. Deluded by the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. This world does not know me. Know me means Sri Krishna, the Brahman or Satchidananda. Human beings are deluded by these three gunas, which is part of Prakriti. So Prakriti acts through these three gunas, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. Though Sattva is better than Rajas and Tamas, still it is it binds by through knowledge. Tamas binds in a different way, Rajas binds in a different way, Tamas binds through inertia. People don't, they feel so gross and tamasic that they don't even have enough energy to do any kind of work. Whereas Rajasic people are intensely active and they are bound to their actions. They can't sit quietly even for a few minutes. So you'll see Rajasic people trying to do this, do that, and a lot of active people come under this category. And finally, there are Sattvic people who are more contemplative, who think before they act. Whatever action they do, it is done with lot of forethought and lot of concentration and lot of making sure that the intentions are good, and they exercise a lot of caution. They just don't do work because it has to be done. Just don't flow in the current. So, current of the world. The three gunas, no doubt they are flowing, but the sattvic person uh, is better than rajasic and tamasic because he tries to control the actions, the thoughts, whatever he does with a lot of wisdom. Now, that is the reason Sri Krishna says that the three gunas in various proportions, they instigate a person to do action in this world or even just stay inert like the stones and the plants and all who have very little rajas. The more you go towards gross material existence, the more tamasic you are. So that's why we say a tamasic person does not act, or even if he acts, he is a very destructive person by nature. He doesn't do anything creative. A rajasic person at least does something creative. Whereas a sattvic person is one who uses his wisdom before undergoing any activity, before taking even taking any sankalpa, before even deciding to act. He gives it a lot of forethought, and if it is prudent enough and it is useful enough and if it is for the benefit of the whole world, he does. So that's why we call such a person a sattvic person. Now, but the Lord is beyond all the three. He is neither tamasic nor rajasic nor even sattvic. So he goes a step ahead and he is a witness of everything. And those who know him, who is beyond the three gunas, who is not only beyond but also immutable. You cannot change, there cannot be any change in that existence. That existence by itself shines in all its glory. The consciousness, the awareness, the state where you are beyond dream, deep sleep, and even waking state. the Turiya state, where you are an observer of all these three states. Most of us, if you don't consider the classification according to gunas, you can consider the classification according to the three states. The first state is waking state, which everyone of us know. All our senses are active, mind is active, everything we do in a intentional way. There's a lot of intention in our actions. Whereas in dream, that actions are there, the indriyas are also there, the subtle indriyas are acting, but they they are not intentional, in the sense the dream can be very vague and disconnected. There is no consistency in our dreams. So you may say it is unintentional, some deep desire or some input which we have given to the brain that manifests itself in a very peculiar way. That's why we get strange dreams which are not apparently connected to the waking state. And after that, there is a deep sleep state when you are tired of both dream and waking state. When the jiva is tired, he decides to stop all these thought processes and all the actions, and only the circulation and the involuntary actions of the human body, they continue, but your mind gets a wonderful rest, that is in deep sleep state. But the state which is described here, beyond all the three gunas, beyond all the three states, is the Turiya state. Turiya is their state of intense awareness, where you are watching or observing not only the waking state, the dream state, and the deep sleep state also, you are a witness to that. And that is the reason when we get up from a deep sleep, we say, oh, we had a wonderful sleep. That memory still persists when you get up. Now, somebody is watching that. Otherwise, how can you tell that I had a very good sleep? How do you feel it? Because you have experienced it. There was somebody who is experiencing that state, and that is unchangeable. Because if that changes, then your sleep also will be disturbed. So, to see something, to see, to be in the deep sleep state where there is no functioning, no function of the mind and the indriyas, they become totally absorbed in, but the ignorance is still there. But there is that awareness that I slept, though it was in ignorance, but I still slept. And that witness, or that state which witnesses all the three states, is known as Turiya. That's what Bhagavad Gita is telling us here in chapter 7, verse 13. So, Keshab, Sri Ramakrishna is telling Keshab and others, she is the creator of both bondage and liberation. She means the Divine Mother, who is creating the universe and destroying it with the help of these three gunas. Without gunas, there is no creation. So sattva, rajas, and tamas in various combinations gives rise to creation. That's the Sankhya theory, that's the Vedantic theory also. Due to her Maya, Maya in the sense, due to her creative power, worldly man is bound with the chains of lust and greed. Now, Sri Ramakrishna seems to be telling that for everything, for tamas, for rajas, for sattvic actions, for everything, mother is responsible. She makes everybody do these actions. And even if a worldly man is bound, it is through her will. So that's why many people complain or say that what is our fault? My mother has created us in this way and we are helpless. No, but mother has also given you the free will. We discussed it in the gospel yesterday, Sunday class, that whether predestination or free will, which is true. And Sri Ramakrishna reconciles with that famous story, Ramer Icha. Ramer Icha chori holo, that some thieves came and made him rob a house. They forced him. and this poor man was a great devotee of Rama, robs the house. Robs in the sense they put all the things which they had stolen from somebody's house, they put it on his head and ask him to carry it. And he just does it. And then finally they run away and gets caught. And that person has he's caught and the police produce him before the magistrate and he tells the truth. He says, I was just smoking, sitting there and quietly sitting. These people caught me. By the will of Rama, they caught me. By the will of Rama, they made me carry all that stolen stuff. Then, by the will of Rama, police came and they arrested me. And by the will of Rama, now I am before you. So, this is my whole story. And the judge, listening to this, sees him how simple and how faithful he is to the will of Rama. So he finally pardons him. And while he is leaving the court, he tells the judge, see, by the will of Rama, I am released. So this predestination or Sharanagati feeling does not come so easily. One has to surrender everything, good and the bad. He didn't say when he was caught, when the police caught him, he did not blame anybody. He said it's the will of Rama. So in our life, when we get good things, we are happy that God has answered our prayers. But when He does something bad to us or something bad happens, why do we blame God? That is what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to tell us. Mother does both. She creates bondage, but at the same time, she liberates you also. And then he is liberated by her mercy and grace. She is the being who takes bound souls across the sea of the world by removing their fetters. So there is a beautiful song, Panke Baddha Koro Kari, Pangure Langao Giri. You are the one who makes the elephant uh, get stuck in the mud or the soil in the mud, and at the same time you make the lame scale mountains. Mountains, even a lame person can scale the mountains with your grace. So you can do anything. You can bind a person, you can release him. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. It all happens by the will of the Divine Mother, but we have to understand that it is the Divine Mother's will. Whether good things happen or bad things happen, it's all Mother's will. And saying this, Sri Ramakrishna says, she is the being who takes bound souls across the sea of the world by removing their fetters, by removing their bondage. She creates the bondage, but at the same time, she gives you inspiration and takes you across the ocean of Maya. Saying this, Thakur sang a beautiful song, a Ram Prasadi song, in a voice sweeter than the gods of heaven, who sings the glories of the Most High. The word used here is Gandharvas. Gandharvas are gods or deities who excel in singing and all the performing arts. They are very good dancers, they're very good singers. So the Thakur's songs were sung in such a beautiful voice. M compares it with the voice of the Gandharvas. And in the song was connected with Divine Mother's divine play, which Ram Prasad has sung. It's a Ram Prasad composition, and he says, in this world's bustling marketplace, O Shama. So Mother Shama is flying kites. That's what she says. You fly kites that soar on the wind of hope. Now we are like all of us, the jivas are like kites. She gives us the wind of hope and makes us fly. Some people fly high, some people fly low, but all are flying. And she makes what makes us all fly? It is Maya, it is the wind of hope. The wind or the breeze of hope is blowing constantly. Asha Vayu. Asha means the hope. So every person thinks one day he'll be happy, one day he will be rich, one day he will achieve something. So that pushes a man forward. a person forward. So she says she's flying our kites, and depending on the breeze and depending on how big the kite is or how strong the kite is, we keep flying. Some are at a very high altitude, some may fly at low altitude, but all are flying in the marketplace of this world. So Sri Ramakrishna has compared our journey as a journey where we are like kites, and Mother is making flying those kites. And then she says the kites made of bone, nerve, skin, all fashioned from three gunas. How intricate is their workmanship? I mean, every kite has been made strong by the three gunas: the bones, the nerves, the nervous system, the skin. All are product of the three gunas. Either they are sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. One of the three guna predominates. So our bone, our skin, our nerves, everything which constitutes our body, Sri Ramakrishna says, Ram Prasad says, they are like these kites. These kites are made of bone, nerve, and skin. And how intricate is the workmanship of the life of Divine Mother, that she uses these three gunas to produce people who are different from each other. Each kite is unique, each kite has a different color, like the different jivas. Then he says, when with worldliness you have imbued their strings, rubbed with a paste of powdered glass to make them sharp and strong. Now, you are the string of the kite. The kites are flying, but they're not flying peacefully. If everybody was flying their own kite, then there would not have been problems. But the problem comes when one person tries to cut or tries to, they paste a lot of glass powder or with some glue so that the string of the kite is very strong. So when the battery, when the wire or the string is very strong, the people who flow that kite are in a position to cut the kites of other the strings, they cut the strings of others kites, and the kite goes away, it just disappears. So that is the game which people play. So if Mother is playing, she makes one kite strong, one thread strong, and worldliness is the string. The string is imbued the strings with the paste of powdered glass. The powdered glass is nothing but our worldly tendencies. All the desires, all the greedy behavior, all the lust and greed, all these things are nothing like the sharp glasses, and they are cutting each other. There is competition. There are so many evil things going on in this world because of these sharp strings. So Ram Prasad says, you are playing the kite, and now and then there is a fight among 100,000 kites. Only one or two break free. The others are all held by the string, and they have to undergo all kinds of torture. Maybe they are cutting, but only the lucky ones who they become free. One or two may break free. All the other kites are made to go up, go down, go to the left, and the wind is constantly blowing. And but somehow some of the kites, if they are lucky, they can become free. And then, Mother, how you laugh and clap your hands. And she says, you play, for you it is all fun. Somebody is bound, somebody is free. And when one or two kites are free from the torture of that child or the person who is flying the kites, finally, Mother, Ram Prasad says, you only clap and say, oh, that kite has been liberated. So some of the jivas who are lucky, they become Jivan Mukta, or they become free, they get moksha. Ram Prasad says a kite set free will swiftly ride the favoring wind across the world's ocean and soon alight on the shore, above shore. on the other shore. I mean, the idea here is that most of the kites will be hovering on the surface of this world, on Sansara. They will be there, but only those kites which have been set free by mother, they will fly and the breeze will carry them, because the other kites, there is a lot of tension. The strings are not letting them to go free. They are now and then pulled by the world. The worldly tendencies are they pulling them back to the gross, and they have to bear the brunt of the breeze and the strong breeze, and then the kites go up, they go down, and there's so much of tension in the string. So all these things bind us to the world. Mother binds us by thousands and thousands of kites are flying, but all are bound and in the hand of the person who is uh, flying those kites. But one or two kites who are lucky, they break free and then they cross the ocean and fall on the other side. So they are no longer, they have to be blown about here and there by the wind. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Mother is always in her sportive mood. This world is her sport. She has her own way and she is full of joy. She liberates only one among millions. So that is also, Sri Ramakrishna says, his mother's will. She doesn't want to free everybody. Otherwise, the kite, people who are flying kites, if everybody cuts the other's kite and then there are no kites left, then the play will not go on. So she says among millions, she just frees one or two kites. It's not easy to get mukti. She liberates only one among millions. Then the Brahmo devotee asks, all the Brahmo devotees with Keshav Chandra Sen were listening to Thakur's wonderful parable, wonderful conversations. Then the Brahmo devotee asks, Sir, she can free everyone if she so desires. Why has she bound us with the chains of the world? He said, why? What is the reason? If she wants, she can free all the kites. She can free all of us. Then why does she free only a few and the others are in bondage? Then Sri Ramakrishna says, it is her pleasure. It is her desire to sport with all this. If a player touches the granny in the game of hide and seek, he no longer has to run about. If all the players touch her, then how will the game continue? So mother wants the game to continue. If everyone should touch the granny, she would be unhappy. The granny is happy for the game to continue. So the granny who is sitting, those who touch the granny, they are out of the game. But the granny doesn't want. That's why the granny tries to avoid the children. And the children cannot touch her. So the idea is that mother is so she, through her illusion, through her maya, she doesn't allow people to stop the game and leave the game and be free. She wants the play to continue. She wants this kite flying to continue. So that's why she says if everybody should touch the granny, she would be unhappy. The mother would be unhappy. The granny is happy for the game to continue. That is why she, the mother of the universe, is happy and claps her hands when she cuts the string of one or two kites, bound souls, out of 100,000. So, and everybody laughs because though Sri Ramakrishna told it in a very jovial way, he told the harsh realities of life that no matter how many kites are flying, mother will only free one or two in millions. So that shows how rare it is for people to get mukti. Then he says, Thakur sings, then he says, with a wink of her eye, she has directed the mind to go and enjoy the world. How can it be the fault of the mind? Again, by her grace, when she turns that mind from the clutches of worldliness, one is liberated. Then the mind goes to her lotus feet. So here Sri Ramakrishna says, though she is doing both, but at the same time, uh, it's not the fault of the mind. She has directed the mind of the worldly person to go after these things. So it's not the mind's fault as such, but through her grace, when she frees the mind from this Maya, and one can escape the clutches, and then the mind giving up this kite flying, giving up this world. They focus on the lotus feet and they say, no more playing. I want to be free. Thakur sings a beautiful song, assuming the position of a man of the world, expressing his complaint to the Divine Mother. Now, Ram Prasad and all these wonderful composers, they compose these songs, and in the initial stages, the sadhaka is unhappy with the mother because uh, the sadhaka feels that why doesn't mother free us? Why does she allow us to suffer in this world and make us attracted to this world? So that is why this grief that weighs on my heart, though you may, my mother, are here and I am wide awake, thieves of passion rob my house. Now, this is a wonderful simile in this song, which says, this song, it's a Ram Prasadi song, another song by Ram Prasad, that in my house, the thieves of passion are coming and robbing my house in broad daylight. So there is so much grief. I'm full of grief that I am awake. You are there, and you still allow my passions to destroy me and rob me of all the good qualities, of all the good nature. He says, why do you do it? Why do you incite my passions that even though I'm wide awake, I'm not careful and I succumb to the passion, succumb to the desires of the world, succumb to lust and gold, lust and greed. And then I fall a prey to this passion and then I get bound. But why do you do it? So Ram Prasad is angry with mother. Time and again I resolve to repeat your holy name, yet at the proper hour I forget. Now I understand this is all your trick. He is complaining that I take a resolution, I read good books, I listen, do satsanga, and then finally I decide now I'll take the name of the Lord. But within no time, you just distract us and delude us. So why do you do it? It's all your trick. I mean, he is complaining. Ram Prasad is complaining that it's all because of your trick. If you wanted, you could have freed us. But as you have not given, so you have not received. Am I to blame? Had you but given, surely you would have received. Out of your own gifts would I have given to you. So he says, you have not given me devotion, so how can I give it back to you? There is a beautiful story where Girish Chandra Ghosh and Ramchandra Datta were with Thakur. And Girish was, because he was in a drunk state, he was abusing Thakur right and left. And then he goes away, and then Sri Krishna felt very bad but still, and he sort of complained to Ramchandra Datta or somebody or some devotee who was there that see how Girish treated me, how harshly he spoke. Girish was not in his senses, and he scolded him, and then he was angry with Thakur. And then after he left, Sri Krishna said, "Why is he so harsh on me?" Then Ramchandra Datta told something very significant, and Thakur also enjoyed or laughed at it. He said, when Sri Krishna killed Kaliya, the great serpent whom he killed because he was poisoning the Yamuna river and killing the young children. So Sri Krishna decided to kill that Kaliya Daman, they say. Sri Krishna goes and kills that huge snake, many hooded snake, which was poisoning not only the water but also the children who used to come and uh, play there near the bank of Yamuna. So Sri Krishna kills this snake. So he says, uh, Ramchandra Datta says, when Kaliya was being killed by Sri Krishna, it was spewing poison. Poison was coming from its mouth, as if it were that it was offering poison to Krishna. So then Ramchandra Datta said, you have given Girish all these bad tendencies. And naturally, those tendencies he is giving back to you. So you are responsible. Girish is not responsible. And Thakur smiles. Thakur agrees. Yes, it is mother who gives us a weak mind, mother who distracts us, and it is. But again, if we keep our eyes and ears open, and if we are devoted, someday or the other, if we are sincere, mother will open the gates to mukti as well, because the keys are with her. So that's what he says. Even if, but here Ram Prasad is upset with mother. He said, if you had given me good things, devotion and all those things, I would have given it back to you. Now I blame you because you have not given me. He is a bit angry with mother Shama. Glory and infamy, the bitter and the sweet, all these are yours, O mother, ever immersed in your sweet bliss. Why do you break my tender feelings? Said, I just want to be very quiet and enjoy your bliss, take your name, and but you are making me do all these things, glory, infamy, the bitter and the sweet experiences which we are all undergoing. He says, oh mother, you are responsible, you are making us, and you are breaking my tender feelings. I want to just take your name and sit quietly and pray to you, but you are inciting my passions, and I commit mistakes again and again. Some are bitter, some are sweet experiences, but all the same, they bind you to the world. Says Ram Prasad, you have given me this mind and turned it with a wing to seek enjoyment in the world. And so I wander, as if cursed by an evil eye, taking the bitter for the sweet and the unreal for the real. He said, you have given this mind, and with a wink of the eye, Mother has induced us or forced us to enjoy this world, and we get stuck. And then we wander all over the world in search of that elusive happiness. We run after the worldly things, and it seems to elude us. The nearer we go, the more distant, distant distance it seems to have covered. So these worldly pleasures, the worldly passions, they recede from us the more we go towards them, and we are wasting so much of time trying to uh, trying to seek enjoyment in this world. But Ram Prasad says, you have given me this mind and made the mind run after it. So I take the bitter for sweet. I think it is sweet. I eat it, but then I find the worldly enjoyment bitter at the end. So he says, you are deluding me, and the unreal, the temporary things, I'm giving so much importance instead of giving importance to spiritual practices. It is by your wish that I'm after this money, the material things which are not going to give me fulfillment. So I'm mistaking the unreal for the real and bitter for the sweet. So thinking it is sweet, I take it, but it is really bitter. So that through experience, we come to know. And Sri Ram Prasad says, uh, this is how mother is playing. Baffled by a delusion, man has become worldly. Ram Prasad says, you have given me this mind and I have turned it with a wing to seek enjoyment in the world. So uh, that is what M is repeating again. He says, Thakur sang this song and then explained at the end that it is mother's wish that this play is going on. And by if we pray to her and if we get her grace, then like those one or two kites which escaped, you will also escape the bondage of the world. That is what now this conversation uh, has ended here. Then a Brahmo devotee is asking another question now. The Brahmo devotee is asking another question. He says, sir, isn't it possible to realize God without renouncing everything? Perhaps this gentleman or this person, devotee, is too much attached to the world. He doesn't want to leave the world, but at the same time, he wants to realize God because he knows that Sri Ramakrishna has said that it is a great thing to realize God and then you are free. He wants freedom, but at the same time, he wants the world. So, without renouncing everything, shall I not realize God? Of course, Sri Ramakrishna then smiles. He knows that this person uh, is too much attached to the world. So he says, okay, but you will realize God, but slowly, and you don't have to give up. So he's as it were consoling him, knowing fully well that he is not able to he will definitely not be able to renounce the world. So Sri Ramakrishna says, of course, why do you have to renounce everything? You are fine and happy as you are. You are all right to do all right at do, re, mi, the lower notes of the musical scale. Do you know the name of Nax, a game of cards? I have been burnt. I have scored too many times, so I am out of the game. You are very clever. Some of you are at 10 points, some at 6, and some at 5. Out of the 17 you need to win. You didn't score more, so you're not been burnt like me. The game is going on nicely. So he says he's trying to console this Brahmo devotee who wants some worldly enjoyment. He says, yeah, you are like the player who doesn't want to leave the game. If he's free, if he gets mukti, then what's the fun? The game will be over for you. So he says, I don't I don't want to finish the game. The game is going on nicely. So you please play. Who asked you to renounce everything? Who asked you to leave the game? You play. So mother and just like the game of cards, where you unless you complete 17 points in that game, you're not free. So some people they enjoy playing the game, so they may score 4 points and get stuck at that deliberately or maybe because of compulsion, but they get stuck and finally they become free. So the game is going on nicely. So everybody is laughing, and Sri Krishna seems to be telling this householder, there is no hurry. If you are still attached, you finish your enjoyment and then perhaps the desire to become free will come. Then he says, truly I tell you, there is nothing wrong in living as a householder as you are. However, you have to fix your mind on God. Otherwise, it won't do. Do your work with one hand and hold on to God with the other. When you finish your work, you will hold God with both hands. Now, this is a wonderful example Thakur is giving. He said, if you leave the thing which you have and leave both the with both the hands, then there will be a problem. So, since you are busy, but don't be so busy that both your hands are occupied. At least leave one hand free so that with one hand you do the work with the other hand. That means give some time to practice the mantra, to do sadhana, to do religious spiritual practices, give some time. And then when you finally finish your work, when you are no longer busy, when you are having full leisure, at that time try to hold on to God with both hands. Till then, at least with one hand you hold. Try to remember Him now and then in the midst of the work. But till you finish the work, it's okay if you do with one hand. But a time will come when your both hands will be free. And don't waste your time and with sincerity hold on God to both hands. Then he says it is the mind that matters, not your action. It's the if the mind is bound, you are bound. If the mind is free, you are free. And he gives a beautiful example. He said the mind gets dyed in the color into which it is dipped. It is just like a laundered white cloth. You can dip it in any color, red, blue, or green. It gets the color you dip it into. Now, he gives the example, beautiful example, that our mind is like that white cloth. It is freshly washed. But now and then we get tempted and then we color the cloth. The whiteness, the color, the cloth loses its whiteness and takes on the color, the red, blue, or green color, which is the color of the dye. So he says, whichever dye you dip this white cloth, it will catch that dye, and that will be its permanent color. That will be its color. Just see. Then he gives a wonderful, a nice cuts a nice joke. Also, he says, if you study a little English, you start speaking English in spite of yourself. Foot, it, mit, and all those things. Thakur did not know English, but he has observed that the moment you go to some academic institution, learn a little bit of English, they had the tendency to show it off because the English were our masters at that time. So anything done in the English style, people used to imitate them, even putting on shoes, the English boots, whistling and singing, and all the actions will come. The moment you learn a little bit of English, you start behaving like an Englishman. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. If a Pandit studies Sanskrit, it's not just the Englishman, but if you if a Pandit studies Sanskrit, he starts quoting shlokas. He has a fad, he has a tendency to make simple things difficult. Now, Thakur made difficult things very simple. He did not quote any shloka, he did not quote any scripture. He tried to explain in the simple, rustic language. But here he says, Pandits have the reverse tendency. All the great exponents of this Vedanta and the wonderful scriptures, no doubt they are very good. But the idea behind Vedanta, idea behind Vivek Chudamani, idea behind Upanishads is to make learning brief and less complicated. That's why Swamiji says go back to the Upanishads. Don't bother about the interpretations of Shankara and all those things. Swamiji said go back to the pure Upanishads, which were outpourings of children, of childlike sages who had a knack of making difficult things simple. Thakur also is trying to make very, very difficult things very simple so that the worldly people also can follow. He says, why do you want to learn new things now? You want to, if you want, if you imitate the British, you will become like a Brit. If you start studying the scriptures, you will start quoting, and then the whole life will be spent in just quoting, but not following a single teaching of the Gita. So such pandits are there, such kathakars are there, such speakers are there. So Sri Ramakrishna is saying, he says it is very natural that if you uh, are associated with scholarship, if you are associated with English, you will become like an Englishman. If you are associated with Sanskrit, you will start quoting like a dry Pandit. So he says at the same time, if you keep the mind in bad company, you will become bad. If you keep it in the company of devotees and if you meditate on God, and then the talk about God will follow. So you listen to uh, uh, the gospel, listen to the words of God, then naturally those things will be uppermost in your mind. And if you meditate on God, then the talk about God will follow. You don't feel like talking anything else. You don't feel like indulging in worldly talk. That's why he says the mind that matters. You have a wife on one side and a child on another. The attraction for the wife is of one kind and the affection for the child is another, but the mind is the same. So he says it is the same mind we use to go into bondage and the same mind we use to free ourselves from bondage. The choice is ours. The mind is like the white cloth. It can take the color of the dye in which you dip it. Now, the choice of dipping your white cloth into the colored dye is yours. If you dip it in, if you allow the mind to go in bad company, your mind will become bad. If you allow it to go in good company, if you think of God, then you'll speak of God, then you'll do everything in a God-oriented way. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying the mind is same. Don't blame the mind for that. You just be careful so that you don't dip your white, pure mind into the color of the world. Otherwise, you can't prevent that uh, pure whiteness to remain. Some color will stick to it the moment you dip it, and then it's very difficult to make it white again. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. It is the mind that matters. You have on one side you have a wife. You look upon your wife with one particular attitude. You don't have the same attitude towards the child. So also in this Maya, in this Prakriti's play, Rajasic people will behave in one way, Tamasic people will behave in another way, Sattvic people will behave in another way. But you have to be careful that the mind does not get drowned in this worldliness. So that is the idea, and that is the intention of this particular conversation. Sri Ramakrishna is trying to convey the fact that the same mind can be used or is used by mother to immerse oneself in worldliness, to bind him to the world, and the same mind, if it is if it has a desire for freedom, it will somehow seek the company of holy men. It will seek the company of holy scriptures, seek the company of God's words, and start believing or start practicing them, and finally, the same mind will lead you to moksha. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. That is a famous verse. Mind itself is the instrument. Bandha means bondage, mokshayo, bandha or moksha. Whichever you want, wherever you dye your cloth, whichever color you dye it in, it will get the color of that particular color will the white cloth will be colored by that particular color. Now, Sri Ramakrishna gave another wonderful parable uh, where he says a Gyani was watching this. Of course, it is not here, but before we start chapter 6, I would like to conclude with this wonderful parable which Thakur used to quote. He has said that the white cloth is like the pure mind, and you dip it in red color, it will take red color. If you dip it in green color, it will become green. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, in another place, tells another similar parable. He says a man was watching that there was a gentleman who was asking uh, the people who came with white cloth, and then the people would come and tell him, I want this cloth to be dyed green. So he'll dip it in the tub and the green color will come. So then he found to his surprise that this person who is dipping the cloth is giving it different color. He says, you want red? I'll dye it red. So what Thakur wants to say is that mother has the capacity to dye it in the color of your choice. If you want to become good, she'll dye it in a good color. If you want to become bad, she'll dye the mind in the bad color. So whatever you wish, whatever you want, you'll get. If you want bondage, you'll get bondage. If you want freedom, you'll get freedom. But there was a wise person who was watching this. So he goes to the dyer, the person who was dyeing the cloth. He said, please dye. He asked, which color do you want? The person who was dyeing the clothes, he said, which dye do you want? Which color? He says, I don't want any color. I want the color of the dye. You please color my white cloth in the color of the dye which is in your tub. Because he saw, how can it be possible? He's dyeing it in different colors. So that means he wants to know the essence. He wants to know God. He doesn't want to understand God through the attributes that God is kind, God is Devi, God is Shiva, God. He doesn't want the attributes. He wants to know God as Satchidananda. That's what our sadhana is about. We don't meditate on God saying that God is with four arms. We may begin our meditation with that, but we have to conclude. And that is the significance of this parable where Sri Ramakrishna says, the wise man said, you please dye it in the color which is there in the tub. And then he was caught. Caught in the sense he had to reveal the truth that God doesn't have any color. The mind gets the color. And if you really want to color yourself uh, according to color yourself in the color of God, then you have to ask Him not for any particular color. You should not ask Him that you please give me this, you give me wealth, you give me power, you make it. God will give you, Mother will give you. Whatever you ask, you will get. That means if you ask for bondage, you will get bondage. If you ask for mukti, whatever you seek, you will get it. So that is what Sri Ramakrishna emphasize that through yearning, one has to make sure what exactly one wants from God. And if you are wise enough, you'll ask the question, you please give me, color my cloth according to the color which is there in the tub. And God gets pleased and He will give that. He will reveal His true nature as Satchidananda, which we want to realize. And that can be realized by having no other desire and not wanting to the color means color the mind, which is like a pure white cloth with different colors. Because mother has the capacity to do that, and she in fact does it. She If a person has an intense desire to become Rajasic, he will become, he'll get name, fame, and all those things. If he wants to be a great scholar or an academician, then perhaps mother will color the mind with sattva. There will be more sattva. He'll be a mild type of person, always engaged in studies. But if the same person wants to fight wars, then mother will make him Rajasic. She will dye him, that person, in another color. And if he's good for nothing, then he will be very tamasic. So tamas is described normally, it is represented by black color, the gloomy color, the dull color. And the rajas is normally described as red. Red indicates activity, rajas. And finally, the white color, which is that of sattva, where the the aspirant goes towards transcendence. So from sattva, it is going beyond sattva. So you have to pass through all the stages of tamas to rajas. Then you become rajasic for some while when you are tired of all this power play, the play of money, and all those things. Then you finally get tired and then you become sattvic, maybe in this birth or in the next birth, and finally you free yourself. So that is the end of chapter 5. Chapter 6 is a very important verse. Everybody knows that. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma sucha. So that is the last goal of human life. Relinquishing all duties. Sarva dharman parityajya. Take refuge in me alone. I shall liberate you from all sins. Grieve not. So that is the 18th chapter, 66th verse, with which the chapter 6 begins. So we are almost, we are just 5 minutes more than, since we started late, we'll end now. And if there is some question, you can ask. So maybe it's a speaker's view. So let it be like that. Those who want can come and ask the question.